Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Aparutade sangamatassa tawara ye sodavanta bamunchantu satang. So, right now, I encourage everybody to observe the state of mind you're in, what is your mood, your emotion of this moment. Being the knowing, being the Puto, observing, it's like this. At this here and now, the place is here, the time is now, and this is reality. It's here and now. Tomorrow, ask yourself, what is tomorrow right now? It's possibility, it's expectation, hope, it might be dread, worry. And so it's just to explore time, what time is in reality, is there's only the here and now, the Paccuppanna Dhamma. And right now, tomorrow is possibility, it's the unknown. So just the perception of tomorrow or the future. This is developing using wisdom to investigate this realm that we're living in, because we see it in terms of conditioning, in a set pattern, a cultural conditioning, a personal experience, personal identities. So we see it always through very worldly perceptions that distort reality. But at this moment, this here and now, tomorrow is the unknown. You don't know. But it's possibility, maybe hope, expectation, might be dread or fear, anxiety. But there's the knowing now that tomorrow, you don't know tomorrow. And then ask yourself, what is yesterday, right now? Because we're experiencing the presence, the Dhamma here and now, using sati sampajanya, mindfulness, intuitive awareness, apperception, wisdom. What is the reality of yesterday in the present? It's a memory, isn't it? You remember yesterday I did this, I said that. So the past is a memory in the present. And a memory is a sankhara. It arises and ceases according to other conditions. Possibility, expectation, hope for the future, dread for the future is a sankhara. It's a mental creation in the present. It arises and ceases. So it's like informing your consciousness with wisdom, panya or wisdom, universal wisdom, the way things are. No longer just taking for granted that tomorrow you'll do this and and next year you go there. I mean, we can plan for the future, there's nothing wrong with that. But right now, we're taking refuge in Buddha Dhamma Sangha, which means we're no longer operating just from daily life perceptions and habit patterns that we're identified with, but we're investigating them, seeing them in terms of Dhamma, of reality, rather than going along with these basic delusions and never questioning, never investigating ourselves, our lives, the experience of life. So the past is like right now, there's only the here and now. Experience is now. This is experience. What you're experiencing right now is called experience. And tomorrow you might, you expect maybe to experience something. Or yesterday you experienced something you remember. But there's only the here and now. The Paccuppanna Dhamma is reality. So that's why the Buddha, in his first sermon, didn't teach about getting something in the future, practicing now to get the result in the future, or talk about the past, but pointing to, like, dukkha, the first noble truth of suffering. Because that's happening now. It's not theoretical. It's not about the philosophical or metaphysical. It's awakening to the present moment is like this, and the sense of a self, the ego, the sakkaya ditthi, the identity that we hold with identifying with the bodies we have, with the memories we have, with the habits, with the emotions. All this is conditioned. These are conditions. They're conditioned. They're sankharas. They are what they are. Sankharas can be coarse or refined, good or bad, beautiful or ugly. But they're all but this in the Buddha emphasized the common characteristic of all phenomena is anicca, dukkha, anatta, the three characteristics of existence. Now, in vipassana meditation, like the samatha practices are concentrating on an object. So you have an object, the breath, for example, anapanasati. You concentrate on the inhaling, exhaling movements of the breathing of your body. So there's always, in samatha meditation, an object. You focus on an object to the exclusion of everything else. And this tends to calm the thinking, wandering mind. As you focus on one object, rather than just proliferate and think and get carried away with your feelings and emotions that arise, you focus on one object and exclude everything else. Vipassana, the aim of Vipassana, or insight meditation, is to look into the nature of phenomena. So it's not focusing on one object, because all phenomena is impermanent. And so the Vipassana practice is sati sampajanya, which is including everything. All conditions are impermanent. All Dhamma is not self. Now, when the samatha practices, we start with, because that's what we're used to. That's what we've learned to concentrate when we read a book or drive a car. There's a level of concentration necessary to be focused on the thing in front of you. So we've developed that kind of practice. In the samatha practices, they're not using interesting objects or that, but that which tends towards calm, towards equanimity, towards one-pointedness, peacefulness. So, like the breathing of your body is if you concentrate on it, so that you're with the rising, ceasing, the inhaling, exhaling, the breath tends to calm down, even seem to vanish. You experience equanimity, a kind of calm, tranquility. And that's just training the mind in skillful ways. It's like yoga exercises or Tai Chi. It's good to develop mental skills as well as physical skills through various exercises. But the liberating exercise is vipassana, insight practice. So the Four Noble Truths are about looking into, investigating. They have this Pali word, yoniso manasikara, getting to the root cause. And this the Buddha, by taking the ordinary experience of dukkha, of suffering, something that's ordinary, that doesn't, and you're not using it to lead toward tranquility, but towards insight. So, since this is a common experience to all creatures, the human species, we have this reflective mind, or Buddha-type mind. What is a Buddha mind? What is the difference? Why can't a cat or a dog reflect on its behavior? In monasteries, and remember at Amaravati, trying to intimidate the cats not to kill the birds with moral fears. This is a very bad practice to kill, no matter how much you love the cat and no matter how convincing and threatening you can be. Its nature is to kill birds. That's what it's made for. That's the species, isn't it? They're vegetarian, cows eat grass. Other animals kill other animals and eat meat and so forth. And this is the species. Different species need different types of food, and these are just the natural tendencies of a species. Now we're a mammalian species. We share a commonality, say, with all mammals. We have the same kind of instincts of procreation, survival. we have, why do human beings like dogs so much? What is it there about the species of dogs that we can relate? Because emotionally they're quite like us. You can hurt their feelings by yelling at them. Dogs get jealous and get angry. When they get happy, they're very happy. So they have feelings, but they don't have retentive memory like the animal world. It has a memory, but it doesn't think about last year. It doesn't have the Buddha ability, the Buddha mind to reflect. And so when we make Buddha rupas, we can make them in a human form, like the one here behind me is actually taking an iconic human form. And in the Buddhist world, this is the iconic form of Buddha rupa is a very peaceful form. Those of you who live with Buddha rupas, they don't tend to stimulate desire or passions, because they're the form, either whatever posture they're in, sitting, standing, walking, lying down, whatever mudras, whatever hand movements they're making, it's all about blessing or peace or concentration. The samadhi Buddha rupas, you notice they're composed, but they're not closing their eyes, they're not blocking up their ears, they're not like the three monkeys, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Their senses are open, receptive, calm, mindful. And so this is a unique icon to Buddhism itself. And you don't find this icon in the Western world. My sister is a icon artist. She paints. She's a devout Roman Catholic, and she's very well known in west coast of the United States for painting icons, and they're beautiful. They're beautifully done, the kind of Byzantine style, very kind of stylized type of figures of saints, of Jesus. But there's no icon that represents this mindful wisdom that the Buddha rupa exemplifies. When you go and visit, like many years ago I was visiting Paris. We were in the area of the Eiffel Tower, and that very touristed area where they have these kind of grand figures of kings and knights riding on horses, and emperors with swords, and empresses all looking very haughty and arrogant. The women are usually, like queens, or they're not peaceful looking. They look very like they're haughty and their noses are in the air, and the male figures are all warriors, muscular and with weapons. They're beautifully done, beautifully sculpted figures. And then we went into the Gimei Museum, which is in that area where they have the Oriental art collection, and of course Paris used to colonize Cambodia, so they have some of the most beautiful Cambodian Khmer Angkor Wat period Buddha Rupas there, and they set them off with beautiful lighting. And you go in the Gemay Museum and you just feel like you've entered kind of like an oasis of calm, because these beautiful Khmer Buddha Rupas just have the most beautiful, peaceful faces, heads. Sometimes there's only the head of a decapitated Buddha Rupa, but even that, the head of a Khmer Buddha Rupa is extraordinarily beautiful, and when you look at it, it has an effect on your consciousness. Notice how body language, the way someone walks or holds themselves, has an effect on what we emotionally experience. And this is just the way it is. This is what sensitivity is about. Sensitivity is not about how things should be. It's not idealistic, because we have to live in the realm of here and now, where things are what they are. And the ideals of the perfect, a utopian society where everything is what it should be, is the future. It's the unknown, it's potential, it's possibility, it's ideal. But we as living, breathing, sensitive forms, human beings, have to experience, our experience always is here and now with the way it is. Both internally, the way you are, your health, your physical condition, your age determines what you're experiencing. The environment around you affects you. Whether it's here at BuddhaBodhivana Monastery or in the middle of a traffic jam in Melbourne, you feel it. This is what sensitivity is about. It's not about the ideals of how we would like Melbourne to be or the Bodhivana Monastery, but it is the way it is. And notice that the Buddha was emphasizing the characteristic of impermanence. So impermanence is not a criticism, or it's not comparing one sankhara with another, as some are better than others and bigger and smaller. It's all sankharas are impermanent. So in that way, it makes it much more easy for us, because the sankharas are, they're repulsive, they're horrifying, they're fascinating, they're magnificent, they're splendid, they're boring, they're mediocre. They have so many qualities, permutations of pleasant, being pleasant or unpleasant, good or bad, beautiful or ugly, that we get whirled away in our own emotional reactions of being intimidated by the qualities by the experience of here and now, by the physical sensation of sitting, by breathing, by whether you're too hot or too cold, or you're feeling well or sickly. In a monastery like this, it's set up to create a useful atmosphere of tranquility. So you notice it is not highly decorated with a lot of distracting images. You want more like simplicity, because we don't come to the monastery to be entertained, to be distracted by looking. It's not like going to an art museum or a show where you go for distraction, for entertainment. But the monastery is aimed to be a place where you come to meditate, to reflect on Buddha's teaching. We come to BuddhaBodhivana monastery to make merit, to tambun, to listen to the monks, listen to Dhamma. So in a monastery like BuddhaBodhivana is a great gift to the general public, because places like this are appreciated in a world, in a materialistic society that is hell-bent on distracting you through arousing, exciting feelings, love and hate and fear and desire. Why do so many people like to go to these blockbuster films where there's just one exciting event after another? and a bit busy, like bombs exploding and cars speeding through New York City in a way that, it's impossible, or it's shooting guns, a lot of sex and violence. Why do we want to pay money to go in and look at that? Because it excites the mind. It's entertaining. Even horror films or, monster films they can be scary, they can frighten us, but it's entertaining. Whereas so much of life, ordinary lay life, is just routine, isn't it? Waiting for the bus, cooking the dinner, waiting for somebody to come home, watching television, getting dressed, taking a bath, and so forth, just the mundane ordinariness of life. Where in blockbuster films there's one shocking, exciting, magnificent explosion, one right after another. And then there's BuddhaBodhivana monastery, where you don't come for that, you don't want that. And so like this weekend retreat is for reflection, for encouragement, because as Buddhists we have faith, we appreciate for many of you it's your native religion. You're born into Buddhist societies, Buddhist communities, Buddhist parents. For many of us, it's something we've adopted. We've came to not through our culture or through our parents, but through interest and the rising of interest and faith in Buddha Dhamma. But it brings us together, and then the teaching is about the way things are, rather than trying to arouse discontent in you by complaining and telling you how you should be or how life should be, and then arousing anger and resentment in the fact that there's so many injustices and events of unfairness and problems in the world that we shouldn't have. We should all just love each other and be kind and share our wealth, and we can think of the shoulds, how things should be. But pointing out, this is the way it is at this moment. It can only be like this. It can't be what it should be as some ideal, but it is the way it is. So this is a very honest and direct knowing. All of us, everyone here knows how things should be, how Australia should be, how Buddhist monks should be, how Christians should be, how the government, the city council, how everything should be. We can all think of, the ideals. But it's the wisdom faculty where we're looking at the way things are rather than towards idealizing conditioned phenomena to something that it should be, but isn't right at this moment. And this way of reflecting then is not kind of just bowing to mediocrity or resigning yourself to suffering, but it's a very reflective, investigatory ability we have to observe the Buddho. These words, Buddha, it's Buddha that knows Dhamma. And our refuge in Buddha then is we're letting go of our own egos, our personalities, our views and opinions to take refuge in awareness. To be Buddho, you have to let go of the ego. It's not like my Buddho and your Buddho are different. But taking refuge in Buddha then gives us, we're in that realm where wisdom can operate and inform consciousness in the daily lives, in the ordinariness of our lives. Sitting, standing, walking, lying down, breathing, just the most ordinary activities that we do throughout the day and night. So the sitting posture, there's 4 postures: sitting, standing, walking, lying down. Sitting posture is like this. Now when I say that, it's pointing, not telling you how you should be sitting, but observe the reality of this body sitting on the seat is like this. So we're establishing a sense of here and now, Paccuppanna Dhamma. Paccuppanna means here and now, present. The reality of now is like this. Breathing, inhaling is like this, exhaling is like this. It's very ordinary. There's nothing kind of mystical or abstract about it or difficult. It's so ordinary we never do it. We don't notice. When we sit, we think or read books or knit or eat something, talk to our friends. When we stand, walk, lie down, these are just, we're doing this throughout the day and night of changing these postures, but we're never really with the physical body in its movements because we're thinking about something when we're standing, walking, lying down, going to sleep. So in the next hour, the walking practice is changing, shifting from the sitting posture to standing and walking. So then the awareness is around the standing is like this, when you're standing still. You can feel your feet on the ground, and the sense of balance. You can be aware of the breath, breathing in, breathing out. But you're informed, like you're mentally noting, standing is like this. So it's not me standing, performing a standing posture. But it's intuitive kind of recognition of the reality of standing is like this. And then walking. Be aware of the right foot, left foot. The reality of walking is like this. So you're informing, you're noticing that which you're doing, which is happening here and now. No longer from the ego level of I'm standing, I'm walking, but from the Dharma level of standing is like this, the body standing is like this, the body walking is like this. Then the practice of walking Jongrom, we use the word Jongrom, is a meditative walking practice. We generally have like 25, 30 steps of our own steps, and we designate Jongrom path. I usually recommend 25 to 30 of one's own ordinary paces, and you're noticing that this is, for the next hour you'll be walking between this point and that point. So, the tendency to walk is to go somewhere, and you're going from here to your where you're staying, or from here to the dining hall. There's a sense of walking the purpose of walking is to go somewhere, to get somewhere. Where walking Jongrom is just going from one point to the next, walking back and forth. Well, ordinarily we don't do things like that. We don't, unless we're upset and we kind of waiting in the ICU of a hospital, waiting to see what's happening. We walk back and forth, but that's more or less out of restless desperation. But walking Jongrom is meditative practice, and you're being with the reality of walking and standing during this time, and you're paying attention to it. It's like this. And the mind will, when we're walking, to be just aware of walking. We don't generally aren't aware of walking unless it's walking is painful or difficult. So we concentrate on, notice the movement of our feet, the right foot, left foot. We can use Pu-to, Pu for the right foot, To for the left foot, and just to stay with the moment. Pu-to is a mantra to stop the wandering mind, to focus on what's actually happening, like the walking of your own body from this point to that point, and turning, walking back and forth. So this also leads, this one can get very concentrated, through walking Jongrom, through walking meditation, but also in terms of vipassana. It's investigating, looking at the way things are. We notice how easily the mind wanders when we're walking. To be pulled out and look at a kangaroo or a flower or a beautiful bird. It's to sightsee, to take pictures of the scenic views around. Just notice all these tendencies towards distraction, and don't be critical of yourself, but just notice how when you're walking you tend to think like this or be distracted by that, and then determine to bring your attention to the actual walking practice. So your intention is to stay with just the reality of standing still and then walking from this point to that point, turning, standing, walking back and forth. So it's very simple, as is your intention. Then your habit tendencies will take over. You'll start wandering, thinking, getting restless, wondering if you're doing it all right, or what's the point of this, walking back and forth. We start doubting it, that this is a waste of time or whatever. It's all the thinking process. The sankharas are, our personalities, our views and opinions arise. But in terms of vipassana, we're noting that they are what they are. They arise and cease. Don't get caught up in just trying to suppress or believe in them, but be aware that during this time that's been designated, the standing, walking practices, this is all that's necessary. Then the awareness, we can concentrate, but if you can't concentrate very well on walking, then reflect on the tendency to whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking while you're doing this practice, seeing it in terms of it is what it is. And let it be that way. Then return to the reality of walking is like this: right foot, put, left foot, toe, like that. So that you're not just thinking and analyzing, but you're observing and concentrating. Now the techniques are simple enough, so it's not, whether some people have, like Ajahn Chah, when I first met him, I'd been trained in the Burmese style, the Mahasi Sayadaw method, where every movement is very slow, where you notice every movement of your foot lifting and extending, touching, and you move incredibly slowly. And that's how I was trained in the beginning. And when I went to Wat Pho Lumpur Cha, I said, develop awareness around ordinary pace. Because that's what we use in ordinary life, isn't it? You can't walk slowly like that in daily life. I mean, if you have to catch the bus, you can't move that slowly, you'll never make it. And so where, say, ordinary pace, like Luang Por Chah was always emphasizing around the ordinariness of things rather than very highly stylized or affected ways of practice. When I was a Samanera, this is before I met Ajahn Chah, I was staying at a monastery in Nong Khai where this kind of practice, Mahasi practice, was being taught. And the monk, there were only two of us practicing this. And the monk, had the kuti across from mine, and he'd been there about 11 months. And they were all praising, saying, he really, every movement is so precise. He's aware of every movement. When he eats, it takes him forever just to bring the food, put it into his mouth, and then be mindful of chewing, swallowing, and so forth. I used to watch him, and the monks there were praising, this is their #1 student. So I found myself trying to be like him. Because, the ego wants to think that's the role model for a walking meditation. And but I found out that moving slowly for several weeks like that, I became constipated. Which created other problems. And then one day an ambulance came and took this monk to the hospital. So, I mean, it's not to condemn the method, but also we have to use wisdom with it, and common sense, that the body does, like Luang Por Chah's whole way of training was about ordinary movement, not extreme kind of expressions or techniques. And he would use like the Thai word for ordinary, tamada, and I'd hear this word when I was trying to learn the Thai language, and I could hear Luang Por saying, "Ben tamada, tamada," and I thought, I asked him, what does tamada mean? And he said, ordinary. And so this is, and tamada is also the word dhamma, meaning like the dhamma is ordinary. It's not high and special and so refined that, it's only the most highly evolved human beings can possibly know Dhamma. It's here and now Dhamma, it's reality. It's breathing, it's feeling, it's sensitivity, and then the awareness of it, of sankharas, is the way to be free from the limitations that we put on ourselves through ignorance, through avijja, through not understanding Dhamma. So that's why the Buddha's teaching is for manusya, for human beings, because we have this reflective ability. We are aware of what we're thinking or what we're feeling. It's like this. So if somebody makes you angry, insults you, and you feel anger right, you're angry. There's anger. When the cat gets angry, it becomes anger, totally angry. It becomes an angry cat. We become an angry human being. Or, if we're reflecting on it, we know that anger is like this. You see the difference? The Buddha reflective ability to to observe. It's where the cat that gets angry can't reflect on anger. It becomes the anger itself. We tend to do that too. When anger arises, we become angry. But we also, you have to admit, you know that you're angry, but you see it as a self, as your anger, rather than anger is like this. So in vipassana practice, you're no longer claiming the anger and judging yourself as, or getting carried away by it, but observing. It is a feeling, isn't it? It's a strong, it affects your physical body. It's a strong emotion. It lingers even when you stop thinking. You still feel this remaining sense of anger, because it has a strong effect just on the body itself. So it requires patience to bear with, say, strong emotions. But the knowing of those emotions from the Buddha level is no longer claiming it in terms of my anger, my greed, my fears, but observing it in terms of sankhara. Buddha, knowing the nature of sankhara, is impermanent. One of the common questions in retreats is somebody will say, how do I get angry? I have an anger problem. How do I get rid of anger? And so I could say, well, be more patient, or try to analyze why do you get angry so easily, or why are you offended by this? And we ask the question why, become interested in analyzing why I get angry. But the Buddha never, in the scriptures, never asked why. He never asked that question. He's pointing to the way it is. Anger is like this. You don't need to know why, but to know anger is like this. And you see the difference. When you start asking why I get angry, and whose fault is it, or what's wrong with me, or sometimes we feel guilty about it. We've been told we shouldn't get angry, or that we're an angry person, that we have an anger problem. Then it becomes personal, it becomes a self-view, and then we start analyzing why, because, I was born under this particular astrological sign where you're supposed to get angry, an anger sign, or I've got a strong fire element, or my father used to beat me up, and things like this. So we analyze. But notice in vipassana, it's not about why, but noticing the way it is, like whatever your emotional habits are. It's not, they are what they are. Then there are sankharas. The encouragement, I'm encouraging you to trust your awareness of them in terms of Bhutto, Tammo, Sangho, rather than in terms of analyzing them and evaluating them and continually identifying yourself with the emotions you're experiencing. It's not to suppress emotion or deny it or to dismiss it, but to know it in terms of what it actually is in the here and now, the Paccuppanna Dhamma. So we can play in Irribo.